My name is Jacob, and I'm about to tell you a story that will make you question everything you think you know about the people closest to you. This isn't just about betrayal, it's about how one night changed not just my life, but the lives of everyone around me in ways I never could have imagined. It started 5 years ago when I married Rebecca in a small church in Austin, Texas. She was the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen, long auburn hair, green eyes that sparkled when she laughed, and a smile that could light up any room. I was a mechanic at Rodriguez Auto Shop, working with my hands, getting dirty, earning an honest living. She taught 3rd grade at Riverside Elementary, shaping young minds, making a difference in the world. We were different, but that's what made us perfect together. Or so I thought. Our first 3 years were like a fairy tale. We'd spend weekends exploring Texas Hill Country, going to local festivals, talking about our dreams of buying a bigger house and maybe starting a family. Rebecca would pack these elaborate picnic lunches, and we'd find some secluded spot by a lake or river. She'd bring her camera and take pictures of everything: the sunset, the water, me making silly faces while trying to skip stones. "I want to remember every moment," she'd say, snuggling against my shoulder as the sun set. "These are the best days of our lives." I believed her. God help me, I believed every word. The first crack in our perfect world appeared about 18 months ago, but it was so subtle I almost missed it. Rebecca started staying late at school more often. Not every day, just once or twice a week at first. "We're implementing this new reading program," she explained over dinner one Tuesday night. "Mrs. Henderson wants all the 3rd grade teachers to stay after and work on lesson plans together." It made sense. Rebecca had always been dedicated to her job, often grading papers at home or spending her own money on classroom supplies. I admired her commitment. But then the late nights became 3 times a week. Then 4. By last summer she was coming home after 9 p.m. almost every night, exhausted and distant. "How's the reading program going?" I asked one evening as she picked at her dinner. "Oh, it's coming along," she said, not looking up from her plate. "Very intensive process." That should have been my first red flag. Rebecca loved talking about her students, her lessons, her victories and frustrations at school. She'd usually spend 20 minutes telling me about how little Tommy finally learned to read or how Ashley's parents were going through a divorce and it was affecting her grades. But now, nothing. Just vague responses and tired sighs. I tried to be understanding. Teaching was stressful and maybe she just needed space to decompress. I started cooking dinner, doing more chores around the house, anything to make her life easier when she came home from those long days. The second red flag came in August. I was doing laundry and found a restaurant receipt in Rebecca's jeans pocket. Rosario's, an upscale Mexican restaurant downtown. The receipt was for 2 meals, 2 margaritas, and the total was $87.43. The date stamp showed it was from the previous Thursday, one of her late school nights. When I asked her about it that evening, she barely looked up from her laptop. All that. Mrs. Henderson took the whole team out to celebrate finishing the first phase of the reading program. She insisted on paying for everyone, but I guess I got stuck with the check by accident. "Must have been nice," I said, trying to keep my tone light. "Which teachers went?" All of us. The whole 3rd grade team." She was typing rapidly on her laptop, not making eye contact. "Listen, honey, I really need to finish these lesson plans tonight." I wanted to ask more questions, but she seemed so stressed that I let it go. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe this reading program really was as demanding as she made it sound. But the receipts kept appearing. Different restaurants, always for 2 people, always on nights when she was supposed to be at school. When I tried to bring it up again, she got defensive. "Are you checking my pockets now?" she snapped one Sunday morning. "What's next, going through my phone? Following me to work?" The anger in her voice shocked me. Rebecca never raised her voice, never got defensive like that. In 5 years of marriage, we'd barely had any real arguments. "I'm not checking your pockets," I said carefully. "I was just doing laundry and—" "Well, maybe I should do my own laundry from now on," she interrupted. "Since you're apparently keeping track of every receipt I have." She stomped out of the room, leaving me standing there with her jeans in my hands, feeling like I'd done something wrong. But what? Caring about where my wife was spending money? Wondering why she was lying to me? That night, she apologized. "I'm sorry I snapped at you," she said, curling up next to me in bed. "This new program is just really stressful and I'm taking it out on you. That's not fair." She kissed my cheek and for a moment, everything felt normal again. But as she drifted off to sleep, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, a cold knot forming in my stomach. September brought new changes. Rebecca started going out on weekends too. "Girls' night," she'd say, putting on makeup in our bedroom mirror. Lindsay and Chloe want to try that new wine bar downtown. Lindsay and Chloe were teachers at her school. I'd met them at the school's Christmas party a couple of years ago, nice women both married with kids. It seemed reasonable that they'd want to blow off some steam together. But something felt off about these girls' nights too. Rebecca would come home smelling like expensive perfume I'd never seen her wear, her hair perfect despite supposedly dancing and drinking for hours. And she'd always go straight to the shower no matter how late it was. Had to wash the smoke out of my hair, she'd explain. That place was so crowded, everyone was smoking on the patio. One Saturday in October, I decided to surprise her. She'd gone to another girls' night at some trendy bar called Velvet Room. I thought I'd pick up some of her favorite chocolates and maybe swing by to say hi, see if she wanted me to give her and her friends a ride home. I got to Velvet Room around 10 p.m. and scanned the crowd looking for Rebecca's auburn hair. The place was packed with young professionals, dim lighting, expensive cocktails. I walked through every section twice, checked the patio, even asked the bartender if he'd seen 3 women matching their descriptions. Nothing. I called Rebecca's phone. It went straight to voicemail. I tried calling Lindsay. No answer. Finally I called Chloe. Her husband answered. Oh hey Jacob. What's up? Hi Mark. Is Chloe there? I'm trying to reach the girls. Rebecca left her phone charger at home and I wanted to drop it off. There was a pause. Girls' night? Chloe's been home all evening. She's upstairs giving the baby a bath. Hold on, let me get her. The world tilted sideways. I stood in the parking lot of Velvet Room, phone pressed to my ear as Chloe came on the line. Hey Jacob. What's this about girls' night? I wish I was having a girls' night. Mark had to work late, so I've been dealing with a teething baby all evening. I mumbled some excuse about getting confused about the plans and hung up. Then I sat in my truck for an hour, engine running, trying to process what I'd just learned. Rebecca wasn't with her teacher friends. She'd lied to me about where she was going. So where was she? When she came home that night at 1:30 a.m., I pretended to be asleep. She slipped into bed quietly and I caught that unfamiliar perfume smell again, along with something else, men's cologne. My wife was cheating on me. The thought hit me like a punch to the gut. All the late nights, the mysterious receipts, the defensive behavior, it all made sense now. While I'd been worried about her being stressed at work, she'd been having an affair. I lay there next to her, listening to her breathing even out as she fell asleep, and felt something die inside my chest. This was the woman I'd promised to love and cherish forever. The woman I'd trusted with my heart, my future, my everything. And she was in love with someone else. The next few weeks were the worst of my life. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't concentrate at work. Connor, my best friend and coworker, kept asking if I was okay. You look like hell, man, he said one afternoon as we worked on a transmission replacement. Everything good at home? How do you tell your best friend that you think your wife is cheating? How do you say those words out loud? So I just nodded and said I was fine, probably coming down with something. But I wasn't fine. I was dying inside a little more each day. I considered confronting Rebecca directly, but what would I say? I know you're lying about girls' night? She'd just come up with another story, another explanation. I needed proof. I needed to see it with my own eyes. The opportunity came 3 weeks later. It was a Friday night in November, and Rebecca announced she was going to another girls' night. Same place. I asked casually, not looking up from my dinner. Actually, we're trying somewhere new. Lindsay heard about this club called Electric Dreams. Supposed to have great music. Electric Dreams. I'd driven past it before, upscale nightclub downtown, always packed with young professionals and college students. Not exactly where I'd expect 3 elementary school teachers to hang out, but stranger things had happened. Sounds fun, I managed to say. What time will you be home? Probably late. You know how these things go. She leaned over and kissed my cheek and I caught a whiff of that expensive perfume again. She was wearing it now before she even left the house. After she left, I waited exactly 1 hour. Then I showered, put on my best jeans and a clean button-down shirt, and drove downtown to Electric Dreams. The place was everything I'd expected: loud music, flashing lights, crowded dance floor. I felt completely out of place in my work boots and Wrangler jeans, but I managed to blend into the crowd. I bought a beer and positioned myself near the bar where I had a good view of the dance floor. For the first hour, I didn't see Rebecca anywhere. Maybe she really was here with her friends. Maybe I was just being paranoid after all. And then I saw her. She was at a high-top table near the VIP section, but she wasn't with Lindsay and Chloe. She was with a man I'd never seen before, tall, probably mid-30s, wearing an expensive suit that fit him perfectly. Dark hair slicked back, confident smile, gold watch catching the light as he gestured while talking. They were sitting close together, his hand resting on her knee as she laughed at something he said. Everything about their body language screamed intimacy, the way she leaned into him when he spoke, how he tucked a strand of her hair behind her ear, the way they looked at each other like they were the only two people in the room. I felt like I was going to throw up. But then something even worse happened. They got up and moved to the dance floor, and I watched my wife of 5 years dance with another man like she'd never danced with me. Sensual, passionate, completely uninhibited. He spun her around, pulled her close, whispered in her ear. She threw her head back and laughed, pure joy lighting up her face. When was the last time I'd seen her look that happy? When was the last time she'd looked at me the way she was looking at him? My hands were shaking as I pulled out my phone and started recording. I don't know why I did it. Maybe I needed proof for myself, maybe I was thinking about divorce proceedings, maybe I just wanted evidence that this nightmare was really happening. The video captured everything. Rebecca and this stranger dancing together like lovers. His hands on her waist, her arms around his neck. The way she pressed against him during slow songs. And then, as a particularly romantic song came on, I watched through my phone screen as my wife kissed another man. Not a quick peck, not an accident. A real kiss, passionate and desperate, the kind of kiss that speaks of deep feelings and stolen moments and secrets kept in the dark. I nearly dropped the phone. Seeing it with my own eyes was somehow both exactly what I'd expected and completely shocking at the same time. This wasn't just some meaningless flirtation or midlife crisis. Rebecca was in a full-blown affair with this man, and from the looks of it, she was head over heels in love with him. I couldn't watch anymore. I stumbled out of the club, got in my truck, and drove home in a daze. When I got there, I sat at our kitchen table and watched the video over and over again, each viewing making it more real, more devastating. This was the end of my marriage. The end of the life I'd built, the future I'd planned, the woman I'd loved more than anything in the world. Rebecca came home at 3:17 a.m. I watched the clock on the microwave tick over to 3:18 as she quietly opened the front door, slipped off her heels and tiptoed toward our bedroom. She paused in the kitchen doorway when she saw me sitting at the table. "Jacob? What are you doing up?" I looked at her, hair slightly mussed, makeup smudged, that same expensive perfume mixing with his cologne, and felt something break inside me that would never heal. "Couldn't sleep," I said quietly. She came over and kissed the top of my head. "Poor baby. You should try some chamomile tea. I'm going to take a quick shower and then come to bed." Even now, even after what I'd just witnessed, she was still lying to me. Acting like the devoted wife coming home from an innocent night out with girlfriends. I listened to the shower run and made a decision that would change everything. I opened my laptop and uploaded the video to my phone. Then I opened our friends group chat, the one that included Connor, his wife Maria, our neighbors Rick and Shannon, and about 8 other couples we'd known for years. People who had been at our wedding, who considered us their couple goals, who always asked when we were going to have kids. I typed a simple message, "Thought you all should know the truth about Rebecca." And I sent the video. Then I posted it to Facebook, tagging all our mutual friends and family members. No explanation, no lengthy post about betrayal and heartbreak. Just the video and a caption that read, "This is my wife at Electric Dreams tonight." Guess girls' night was more exciting than usual. Within minutes, my phone started buzzing. Text messages, calls, Facebook notifications. I turned it off and went to bed, leaving Rebecca in the shower, completely unaware that her secret was about to become very public. The next morning, I woke up to Rebecca screaming my name from the kitchen. I found her standing there in her bathrobe, her phone in her hand, tears streaming down her face. "Jacob, what did you do? What did you do?" Her phone was ringing constantly. Every time she declined a call, another one would come in. Text messages were flooding in faster than she could read them. "I showed people the truth," I said calmly, pouring myself a cup of coffee like it was any other Saturday morning. "You had no right. This is. She was hyperventilating, clutching her phone like it was going to explode. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" "What I've done?" For the first time in months, I felt something other than pain. I felt angry. Good, clean, righteous anger. "What about what you've done? How long has this been going on, Rebecca? How long have you been lying to me?" She collapsed into a chair, her phone still buzzing relentlessly. It's not what you think." "Really?" "Because what I think is that my wife has been cheating on me for months, lying to my face every single day, making me feel crazy for suspecting something was wrong. What I think is that while I was working extra hours to save money for the house you said you wanted, you were out dancing with your boyfriend." "He's not my boyfriend," she whispered. "Then what is he?" She was quiet for a long moment, staring at her phone as message after message came in. Friends, family, co-workers, everyone we knew was trying to reach her. "His name is Richard," she finally said. "We met at a coffee shop downtown in July. I was grading papers and he started talking to me. He was charming and funny and he made me feel special. I make you feel special." She looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. "Do you? When was the last time you really looked at me, Jacob? When was the last time we had a conversation that wasn't about your work or the bills or what we were having for dinner?" The accusation hit me like a slap. "So this is my fault? No. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we've been drifting apart for a long time, and Richard made me remember what it felt like to be desired. To be interesting to someone." My phone, which I'd turned back on, started ringing. Connor's name appeared on the screen. I declined the call. "How long?" I asked. "What? How long have you been sleeping with him?" She flinched. "Jacob. How long?" "Since August," she whispered. 3 months. 3 months of lies, of coming home to me after being with him, of letting me make love to her while she was thinking about another man. 3 months of "I love you too" when I said goodnight, of planning our future together while she was building a different future with someone else. "I want you out," I said quietly. "Jacob, please. Can we talk about this? Can we?" "Out," I yelled, surprising myself with the volume of my voice. "I want you out of this house today. Go stay with your sister, go stay with Richard, I don't care. But I don't want you here anymore." She started crying harder, ugly sobs that shook her whole body. "Please don't do this. I know I messed up, but we can work through this. We can go to counseling, we can—" "No." I felt eerily calm now, like the eye of a hurricane. "We can't. The minute you decided to cheat instead of talking to me about our problems, you ended this marriage. The minute you decided to lie to me every single day for 3 months, you ended this marriage. I just made it public." My phone rang again. This time it was Rebecca's mother. I answered it. "Jacob, what is going on?" Dorothy's voice was shrill with panic. "People are calling me about some video?" "Ask your daughter," I said and hung up. Rebecca was staring at me like she'd never seen me before. "I can't believe you're being so cold about this." "Cold?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Rebecca, you destroyed our marriage. You humiliated me, betrayed me, lied to me for months. And you think I'm being cold because I'm not begging you to stay? You destroyed my reputation," she screamed. "Everyone we know has seen that video. My principal, my coworkers, my family, everyone thinks I'm some kind of what? Cheater? Because that's exactly what you are." She grabbed her phone and car keys and headed for the door. "I can't do this right now. I can't. I need to think." "Take your time," I called after her. "But don't come back here. I'll have your stuff packed by tomorrow." The door slammed behind her, and suddenly the house was quiet except for the constant buzzing of my phone. Over the next few hours, I learned just how fast gossip travels in a small city like Austin. The video had been shared dozens of times. People were commenting, speculating, taking sides. Some were sympathetic to me, others thought I'd gone too far by making it public. Connor came over around noon with a 6-pack of beer and a grim expression. "Dude," he said, settling into my couch. "That's some heavy stuff. You think I was wrong to post it?" He was quiet for a moment, opening 2 beers and handing me one. "I don't know, man. What she did was brutal, but putting it online like that, that's going to follow her for a long time." "Good," I said and meant it. Maybe she should have thought about consequences before she decided to cheat. "Have you talked to a lawyer yet?" "I'm calling one Monday morning." We drank in silence for a while, watching college football on TV like it was just another normal Saturday. But nothing would ever be normal again. Rebecca's sister Karen called me that evening. "She's here," Karen said without preamble. "She's a mess, Jacob. I've never seen her like this." "Good to know she's safe." "Is that all you have to say?" I sighed. "What do you want me to say, Karen? That I'm sorry? That I shouldn't have posted the video? Because I'm not sorry. Your sister made her choice. She made a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk at the grocery store. Having a 3-month affair isn't a mistake. It's a choice she made every single day for 90 days straight." Karen was quiet. Finally she said, "She wants to know if you'll talk to her. She says there are things you don't understand, things about Richard." "I don't want to hear about Richard. I don't want to know why she fell in love with him or what he gave her that I couldn't. I just want her to sign the divorce papers when the time comes." "You're really not going to try to work this out?" "Karen, Would you take back a husband who cheated on you for 3 months and lied to your face every single day? She didn't answer. Sunday was worse. Rebecca's mother showed up at my house at 8 a.m., furious and demanding explanations. How could you humiliate my daughter like this? Dorothy demanded, pushing past me into my living room. That video is everywhere. Her principal called her this morning and told her not to come to work tomorrow until they can figure out how to handle the situation. Maybe she should have thought about her career before she started sneaking around. You vindictive little. Dorothy caught herself, took a deep breath. She made a mistake, Jacob. People make mistakes. But what you did is cruel and unforgivable. What I didn't make her cheat. I didn't make her lie. I didn't make her fall in love with another man. I just refused to keep her secrets for her. You could have handled this privately. Like she handled our marriage privately when she was sharing it with someone else? Dorothy left without another word, but not before telling me I'd regret this for the rest of my life. Maybe she was right. Maybe I would regret it. But right now all I felt was empty. Monday morning I called Peterson & Associates, a divorce law firm downtown. I had an appointment for Wednesday afternoon. By Monday evening I'd started getting calls from people I barely knew. Acquaintances, co-workers of Rebecca's, even some of my customers at the auto shop. The video had spread beyond our immediate circle of friends and was making its way through Austin's social media networks. Tuesday brought a surprise I never saw coming. Richard called me. Is this Jacob? The voice was smooth, confident, exactly what I'd expected based on the man I'd seen in the club. Who's asking? My name is Richard Hawthorne. I believe you know who I am. I almost hung up, but curiosity got the better of me. What do you want? I'd like to meet with you. To talk. We don't have anything to talk about. Actually, I think we do. There are things about this situation that you don't understand. Things about Rebecca that you should know before you make any final decisions. Something in his tone made me pause. Like what? Not over the phone. Can you meet me for coffee? Tomorrow at 10 a.m.? There's a place called Sacred Grounds on South Lamar. Every instinct told me to hang up. This man had destroyed my marriage. Why would I want to sit across from him and make small talk? But there was something else too, a burning curiosity about the man who had won my wife's heart. Fine, I said. But this better not be some attempt to get me to drop the divorce. It's not, Richard said quietly. Trust me, after what I have to tell you, the divorce will be the least of your concerns. He hung up, leaving me with more questions than answers. I spent Tuesday night lying awake, trying to imagine what Richard could possibly have to say that would matter. Was he going to apologize? Beg me to forgive Rebecca? Tell me he loved her and wanted to marry her? Wednesday morning I almost didn't go. I sat in my truck outside Sacred Grounds for 10 minutes, debating whether to drive away. But finally my curiosity won out. Richard was already there when I walked in, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups of coffee. He was exactly as I remembered from the club, expensive suit, perfect hair, confident bearing. But up close I could see lines of stress around his eyes. Jacob, he said, standing to shake my hand. Thank you for coming. I didn't shake his hand. I sat down and stared at him. You've got 15 minutes. He sat back down and studied me for a moment. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? Someone who looked more like me, I suppose. Rebecca talked about you a lot, but I guess I pictured someone different. The casual way he mentioned my wife's name, like she was just some mutual acquaintance, made my jaw clench. Get to the point. Richard took a sip of his coffee, then leaned forward. What I'm about to tell you is going to sound unbelievable, but I need you to hear me out. I'm listening. I'm not just some guy Rebecca met at a coffee shop. I'm a private investigator. I blinked. What? I was hired to investigate Rebecca. To get close to her, to document her activities, to gather evidence of infidelity. The world seemed to tilt sideways. That's impossible. You're lying. Richard reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card and a manila folder. Richard Hawthorne, Lone Star Investigations. I specialize in matrimonial cases. I stared at the business card, then at him. Someone hired you to investigate my wife? Who? I can't tell you that. Client confidentiality. Bullshit. I stood up, ready to leave. This is some sick game you and Rebecca are playing. Sit down, Jacob. Please. Something in his voice made me hesitate. I sat back down, but I was ready to bolt at any second. Richard opened the manila folder and spread several photographs across the table. They showed Rebecca at various locations around Austin, restaurants, bars, coffee shops. But she wasn't alone. She was with different men. Men I'd never seen before. What is this? I whispered. Rebecca has been cheating on you for over 2 years, Richard said quietly. Not just with me. With multiple men. My client suspected this and hired me to prove it. I stared at the photographs, my mind refusing to process what I was seeing. Rebecca at dinner with a tall blonde man. Rebecca kissing a dark-haired guy outside a hotel. Rebecca holding hands with someone who looked like he was barely out of college. This is impossible. Rebecca isn't like this. She's a serial cheater, Richard finished. And a very good liar. I looked up at him. If this is true, then why did you sleep with her? Richard had the decency to look ashamed. Because I got in too deep. What started as a professional investigation became complicated. Rebecca is very charming, very convincing. She made me believe that you were an absent husband, that you ignored her, that she was desperately unhappy. So you decided to console her? I made a mistake, he admitted. I broke the cardinal rule of my profession. Don't get emotionally involved with the subject. But Jacob, you have to understand, she pursued me. Aggressively. From the very first day. My hands were shaking as I picked up one of the photographs. It showed Rebecca coming out of a hotel with a man I'd never seen before. The timestamp showed it was from 6 months ago. Who hired you? I asked again. Richard shook his head. I told you I can't. Who hired you? I slammed my hand on the table, making other customers look over at us. Richard glanced around, then leaned closer. Someone who cares about you very much. Someone who suspected what Rebecca was doing and wanted proof before they said anything. Give me a name. I can't. Then this conversation is over. I started gathering up the photographs. Wait. Richard grabbed my wrist. What if I told you that your client is here? Right now? I looked around the coffee shop, scanning the faces of the other customers. Most were young professionals on their laptops or couples having quiet conversations. No one looked familiar. I don't see anyone I know. Look again. Table by the window. I turned and looked and my heart stopped. Sitting alone at a small table by the front window, wearing dark sunglasses and a baseball cap, was Connor. My best friend. My groomsman. The guy who'd been checking on me, bringing me beer, asking if I was okay. Connor had hired a private investigator to follow my wife. I stood up so fast I knocked over my coffee cup. Connor? He looked up, saw me staring at him, and his face went white. He started to stand, probably to run, but I was already moving toward his table. What the hell is going on? I demanded. Connor pulled off his sunglasses and cap, looking like a man who'd been caught red-handed. Jacob, I can explain. You hired someone to follow Rebecca? You knew she was cheating and you didn't tell me? I wanted to tell you, but I needed proof. I couldn't just accuse her without. How long have you known? Connor looked miserable. I saw her about 8 months ago at a restaurant downtown with some guy. They were intimate. Holding hands, kissing. I thought maybe it was innocent, maybe just a friend, but something about it bothered me. So you hired a private investigator instead of talking to your best friend? What was I supposed to say? Hey Jacob, I think your wife is cheating, but I'm not sure. You would have confronted her, she would have denied it, and then what? I needed evidence. I sank into the chair across from him, feeling like all the air had been sucked out of the room. How long has this been going on? Richard had followed me over and was standing behind me. Based on what I was able to document, at least 2 years. Maybe longer. 2 years. While I was planning our future, talking about buying a house, discussing having children, Rebecca had been living a completely different life. Multiple affairs, multiple lies, multiple betrayals. There's more, Connor said quietly. More what? Show him, Connor said to Richard. Richard sat down and pulled out another folder. This one contained financial documents. Bank statements, credit card bills, receipts. Rebecca has been spending money, Richard explained. A lot of money. Hotels, expensive restaurants, gifts. But not on the credit cards you know about. I stared at the documents. I don't understand. She opened secret credit cards, Connor said. 3 of them. She's racked up over $40,000 in debt that you don't know about. The number hit me like a physical blow. $40,000? Hotels, dinners, gifts for her boyfriends, expensive clothes, jewelry. She's been funding her affairs with credit cards, and when she couldn't make the payments, she started taking cash advances. I thought about all the times Rebecca had asked me to pay certain bills because she was tight this month, or needed to save money for school supplies. Meanwhile, she was spending thousands on her secret life. The debt is in both your names, Richard continued. When you file for divorce, you'll be responsible for half of it unless you can prove it was spent on extramarital affairs. I put my head in my hands. My marriage was over, my reputation was destroyed, and now I was potentially on the hook for $20,000 in debt I'd never even known about. "I'm sorry, man," Connor said. "I should have told you sooner." "How long were you going to let this go on?" I asked. "I was going to give Richard another month to gather more evidence and then I was going to tell you everything. But then you caught her at the club and posted that video? And destroyed your investigation." "It doesn't matter now," Richard said. "I have enough evidence to prove adultery and financial fraud. Your lawyer will be able to use this to protect you in the divorce." I looked at these two men who had been working behind the scenes to uncover my wife's betrayal. Part of me was grateful. Part of me was furious that they'd kept me in the dark. Part of me was just broken. "What now?" I asked. "Now you take this evidence to your lawyer," Richard said, sliding the folders across to me. "You file for divorce on grounds of adultery and financial fraud. You protect yourself." "And Rebecca?" Richard and Connor exchanged a look. "That's up to you," Connor said. "But Jacob, she's not the woman you thought you married. She never was." I spent the rest of the day at my lawyer's office, spreading out photographs, bank statements, and credit card bills across his mahogany desk. James Peterson, a man in his 50s with silver hair and sharp eyes, examined each document methodically. "This is extensive," he said finally. "Your friend's investigator was thorough. We can definitely prove adultery, and the financial fraud gives us strong grounds to protect your assets." "What about the debt?" "Given the evidence that the debt was incurred to fund extramarital affairs, we can argue that your wife should be solely responsible for it. It's not guaranteed, but we have a strong case." I signed the papers to initiate divorce proceedings. Adultery, financial fraud, irreconcilable differences. Legal terms that reduced 5 years of marriage to a few checkboxes on a form. When I got home that evening, I found Rebecca sitting on my front porch steps. She looked terrible, hair unwashed, wearing the same clothes from 2 days ago, eyes red and swollen from crying. "We need to talk," she said as I got out of my truck. "No, we don't. Jacob, please. Just 5 minutes." Against my better judgment, I sat down on the steps next to her. We sat in silence for a moment, looking out at our quiet suburban street where kids were riding bikes and neighbors were watering their lawns. "I know about Richard," I said finally. She turned to look at me, confusion in her eyes. "What do you mean?" "I know he's a private investigator. I know about the other men. I know about the credit cards." The color drained from her face. "How could you possibly?" "Connor hired him. 8 months ago. They have pictures, Rebecca. Bank statements. Hotel receipts. Everything." She buried her face in her hands. "Oh God." 2 years, I continued, surprised by how calm my voice sounded. "At least 2 years of cheating. Multiple men. Thousands of dollars in secret debt. Did any of our marriage mean anything to you?" "Yes," she whispered. "It did." "It does." "Then how? How do you cheat on someone you love for 2 years straight?" She was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely audible. "I didn't set out to hurt you. The first time, it just happened. I was feeling ignored, unappreciated. You were working so much, and when you came home you were tired and distant. This guy at the coffee shop paid attention to me, made me feel beautiful again. So you slept with him. It was supposed to be just once. Just to feel desired again. But afterward I felt so guilty, so horrible. I swore it would never happen again. But it did. The guilt was eating me alive. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. And then I met someone else who made me forget about the guilt for a while. And then someone else after that." I stared at her, trying to understand the logic. "So your solution to feeling guilty about cheating was to cheat more?" "I know it doesn't make sense. I know it was wrong. But once I started, I couldn't stop. It was like an addiction. The excitement, the attention, the feeling of being wanted." "You were wanted. By me. By your husband." She looked at me with tears in her eyes. "Was I? When was the last time you looked at me, really looked at me? When was the last time you told me I was beautiful? When did we last have a real conversation about something other than bills or work or household chores?" The accusation stung because there was truth in it. Our marriage had become routine, comfortable but passionless. But that didn't justify what she'd done. So this is my fault? No, it's my fault. But Jacob, we both let our marriage get stale. We both stopped trying. I never stopped trying. I worked extra hours to save money for the house you wanted. I cooked dinner every night. I did the laundry, cleaned the house, tried to make your life easier. Those are chores, she said. When did you last surprise me with flowers? When did we last go on a real date, just the two of us? When did you last tell me you loved me without it being automatic? I wanted to argue, but I couldn't. It had been months since I'd done any of those things. Maybe years. That still doesn't justify cheating, I said finally. No, it doesn't. I should have talked to you. I should have told you I was unhappy, that I needed more from our marriage. Instead, I looked for it somewhere else. We sat in silence as the sun began to set. Despite everything, the betrayal, the lies, the humiliation, I felt a strange sadness. Not just for the end of our marriage, but for what we'd lost along the way without even realizing it. The money, I said. $40,000, Rebecca. I know. I kept thinking I'd pay it back before you found out. I kept telling myself it was temporary, that I'd figure out a way to fix everything. How were you planning to pay back $40,000 on a teacher's salary? She didn't answer, which was answer enough. She hadn't been planning to pay it back. She'd been planning to keep lying, keep cheating, keep spending, and hope I never found out. I filed for divorce today, I said. I figured you would. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I signed up for individual therapy. I know it's too late for us, but I want to understand why I did this. Why I hurt the one person who never deserved it. Good for you, Jacob. She looked at me with those green eyes that had once made my heart skip a beat. I did love you. I do love you. I know that's hard to believe after everything I've done, but it's true. If you loved me, you wouldn't have done this to me. People are complicated, she said. We can love someone and still hurt them. We can want to be faithful and still fail. We can have good intentions and make terrible choices. Maybe she was right. Maybe love wasn't enough to overcome weakness, selfishness, and poor judgment. Maybe I'd been naive to think that love alone could protect a marriage from temptation and betrayal. I should go, she said, standing up. Karen's expecting me for dinner. I watched her walk to her car, and for a moment, I remembered the woman I'd fallen in love with 7 years ago. The woman who'd pack elaborate picnic lunches and take pictures of sunsets. The woman who'd said she wanted to remember every moment because these were the best days of our lives. Where had that woman gone? Had she ever really existed, or had I just seen what I wanted to see? The divorce took 4 months to finalize. Thanks to the evidence Richard had gathered, I was able to keep the house, my truck, and most of our savings. Rebecca was ordered to pay the credit card debt herself, though her lawyer negotiated a payment plan that would take her years to complete. She moved to Dallas to live with her sister and got a job at a school there. I heard through mutual friends that she was doing well, that she'd kept up with her therapy, that she seemed to be genuinely trying to understand and change her behavior. I also heard that she'd started dating someone new, a divorced father of 2 who coached Little League baseball. Part of me wondered if she'd learned from her mistakes, or if this new guy was just another chapter in the same old story. Richard stopped by the auto shop one afternoon, a few weeks after the divorce was final. How are you holding up? He asked. Better, I said, which was mostly true. You? Good. I wanted to apologize again for how everything went down. Getting involved with her was unprofessional. Did you care about her? Really? Richard considered the question. I thought I did. But looking back, I think I just got caught up in the fantasy she was selling. She's very good at making men feel like they're rescuing her from something. She told me she loved me until the very end. She might have believed that was true. Some people are capable of compartmentalizing their emotions in ways that seem impossible to the rest of us. Do you think she loved any of them? The other guys? I don't know. But I think she loved the way they made her feel about herself more than she loved them as individuals. It was an unsettling thought, that my wife had been addicted not to other men, but to the validation they provided. That I hadn't lost her to someone better than me, but to something I could never compete with, the endless high of being desired by someone new. The hardest part wasn't the betrayal itself, but the realization that I'd never really known Rebecca at all. The woman I'd married, the woman I'd loved, had been a carefully constructed facade. The real Rebecca was someone who could lie to my face for years, who could kiss me goodnight after spending the afternoon with another man, who could plan our future while systematically destroying it. A year later, I'm still in the same house, still working at Rodriguez Auto Shop. Connor and I are still friends, though it took months for me to fully forgive him for keeping Rebecca's affairs secret. I understand why he did it, but it still stung to know that everyone around me knew the truth while I remained oblivious. The video of Rebecca and Richard at Electric Dreams eventually stopped making the rounds on social media, but not before it had fundamentally changed both of our lives. Rebecca lost her job, her reputation, and most of her friends. I lost my marriage, my trust in people, and my faith in love. Was posting that video the right thing to do? I still don't know. It was cruel, vindictive, and it hurt Rebecca in ways that went far beyond what she'd done to me. But it was also honest. It showed the world exactly what she'd been doing while pretending to be a loving, faithful wife. Sometimes I run into people who saw the video, and I can see the pity in their eyes. They feel sorry for me, the naive husband who got played by his cheating wife. Other times I see judgment. They think I was wrong to air my dirty laundry in public, wrong to humiliate Rebecca so thoroughly. I've learned to live with both reactions. What I haven't learned to live with is the loneliness. Not just the absence of Rebecca, but the absence of trust. I don't know if I'll ever be able to believe someone again the way I believed her. I don't know if I'll ever be able to take someone's word without questioning their motives, checking their stories, looking for signs of deception. Rebecca destroyed more than our marriage when she chose to cheat. She destroyed my ability to love without suspicion, to trust without fear, to believe in the basic goodness of the people closest to me. Maybe that's the real tragedy here. Not that a marriage ended, but that the capacity for another one was damaged beyond repair. I went on a few dates last year, but they didn't lead anywhere. It's hard to build something new when you're still cleaning up the wreckage from something old. It's hard to be vulnerable with someone when you've learned that vulnerability can be weaponized against you. The house feels too big sometimes. I've thought about selling it, moving somewhere new, starting fresh. But part of me isn't ready to let go yet. This house represents the life I thought I was building, the future I thought I was working toward. Selling it would feel like admitting that dream is really dead. So I stay. I work on my truck in the garage, watch football on weekends, have dinner with Connor and Maria occasionally. It's a simple life, maybe even a lonely one, but it's honest. No lies, no deception, no secrets hiding in plain sight. Rebecca sent me a Christmas card this year. Just a generic holiday card with a brief note inside. Thinking of you during the holidays. I hope you're well. R. I threw it away without reading it twice. Some betrayals are too deep to forgive. Some trust, once broken, can never be repaired. Some people come into your life and change you so fundamentally that you can never go back to who you were before you met them. Rebecca was all of those things for me. And maybe that's okay. Maybe the man I am now, more cautious, less trusting, but also more aware of what I will and won't accept from the people in my life, is who I needed to become. Maybe the pain of betrayal taught me lessons that happiness never could. Or maybe I'm just telling myself that to make sense of it all. Either way, I'm still here. Still working, still living, still hoping that someday I'll meet someone who proves that not everyone is capable of the kind of sustained deception that Rebecca mastered. But until that day comes, I'm content to be alone. Because being alone is better than being with someone who makes you feel alone while they're lying right next to you. And that's a lesson worth $40,000 and 5 years of marriage to learn. Thank you for watching the video to the end. Maybe YouTube will no longer offer you my channel, so subscribe to it by clicking subscribe on the right under the video to receive new interesting stories. Also on the right of the video there is a playlist with other interesting stories that you can listen to, and you can also write in the comments what stories you would like to see on the channel.